only way to expose the truth is to be indecent. Two men might just be indecent enough to do it. Enter a wannabe amateur disc golfer who reads Reddit threads and a fake cowboy who lifts weights. This is Indecent Exposure. It's time to plunge down the rabbit hole with your hosts, Ryan and Sam.
Is that loud enough for you?
Holy shit, brother. My ears are bleeding. I'm the guy from Friday Night Lights or another teen movie where he's like concussions left and he's bleeding from the ears. Holy shit.
Dude, it's just like when you get into a Call of Duty map and the helicopters are just like
it's just an ear rape. Holy shit, man. Good Lord.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah, that's better than a cup of coffee right there. My goodness.
Get you going. It gets people going.
I am amped up. Like, let's go run a marathon. By the way, I don't know if you saw my shirt. It's backwards.
Black and Mild Bros.
Black and Mild Bros is what we wore for our me and Brandon's disc golf tournament that we played a couple weeks ago.
Did you get those custom made?
Yeah, Deb made them.
Oh, Deb with their cricket?
Yeah, with their cricket.
It's fucking sweet, dude.
So if you need
anything, I
need
to order my hat.
Yeah. If you need anything, she's setting up a website.
That's awesome, man.
She's been
pumped.
Pondering on a name since I got it for her birthday, which was 2 months ago. So, if you got any suggestions, throw them out there because we get a ton of comments on all of our YouTube, videos. I would just really love some feedback.
All 18 of you subscribers.
Yeah, you guys are some wild.
All of you.
Yeah, all the comments that we get from you guys, it's so nice.
It's overwhelming.
It's
at this point.
The support,
I'm overwhelmed,
uncanny, and I just feel like we have the best community.
I do feel like we have a fantastic community of listeners, and I feel like we have a great audience. Welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back to another one. Cheers. Hey, cheers.
Cheers it up.
Cheers to our Christmas cup. Supporting the milk theme. It's a bunch of.
I feel like you got to do something with her dairy background.
I mean, I'm literally wearing a hat that she got from a meeting, and it's like a co-op of farmers. And she's like, someone's going to ask you one of these days what you do for the Central Equity Co-op, and they're going to be like, this guy has no idea what he's talking about.
He has exposed.
I don't. I just have a wife that works for him or works with them.
It's fine.
It's all good.
Let's get up to date, man. When was our last? I can't remember when our last episode was.
Well, it was
a week ago or so. It's been about maybe a little over a week.
What did we even talk about last time?
Last time was the WEF.
Oh yeah, that was a good episode.
Klaus Schwab.
That was a good one. Today we're going to talk about taxes and how the government's straight up bending you over.
Which you probably already knew, but we're going to tell you again.
It's partially the government. So we're just going to go through like a brief history. I got a good video kind of explaining what the main drivers are and why we have to do our taxes every year, unlike pretty much every other first world country, i.e. Europe. I don't know how like Asia does it. So but I'm sure it's not as bad as ours. And in reality, like it's not as bad, but like everyone I'm talking to this year is just like, how do I owe money this year? Like, why am I like everyone I've talked to is like, I'm getting just absolutely bent over and it's ridiculous. And I questioned it. And I have ever since I've had to file my own taxes. Like, it's a guessing game, right? Just of the government's like, hey, we know how much you owe. Go ahead and tell us. And we're like,
if you're wrong,
straight to jail.
You're going to jail.
Straight to jail.
Yeah, dude. I don't know. I owed this year, and I was shocked. But I mean, it's probably that you think of all the bills that they've been passing and all these, foreign spending bills and sending all this money to Ukraine. I'm sure that's why we owe more money is because we're just so far in debt. They got but I don't know. It's probably inflation has a lot to do with it as well.
I don't think, to be honest, I don't want to call you out, but I don't think that has anything to do with it. No, seriously.
I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure. So we always had like a standard deduction of like 12.5. Yeah. And that happened before Donald Trump took office, where he reformed the tax plan. From what I remember, and I should have done some more research, is that his tax plan started off like really like low for all middle class, and it was like really good for the first couple of years, and then it starts to like increase over time. I think, I'm pretty sure. It may, or maybe it was just a flat rate, but I'm not sure. But it was a tax reform bill that he had in 2016 that kind of changed how much deductions were, and it was supposed to support the middle class on how much you're supposed to get back from the government. So really, when you're doing your taxes, and if you come out even, or if you owe a couple $100s, or if you get back a couple $100, you're doing good. It means that you're getting the most out of your paycheck. You're withholding the right amount of money. That the government's not taking away from you, and like if you're in that like 500 to plus or minus 500, you're doing something right. But everyone I've talked to this year, it just seems like they owe like catastrophically more. And this year, I just filed mine on Sunday, and we owed around 600, which is about what we've owed for the past couple of years. So, meaning we're getting the most out of our paychecks, which I'm obviously a fan of, but I was kind of tired of always owing, Kansas apparently. So I just redid like how much I'm withholding, put it back to zero. I think I was withholding 1, which the more that you withhold, or the more numbers you put in, the more money you get in your paycheck, but the more you end during tax time. So like, if you want more money, you can put 1 or 2, or I don't even think you can go up to 3.
But then you'll owe.
But then you're going to owe a shit ton.
I think it only goes up to 2, because the way that I've always looked at it is withholding. Like if you have 0, you're not withholding any taxes. Like they're going to take out more taxes.
Dude, and I thought the same thing, but it's the opposite.
What do you mean?
0 means you're getting you're getting the most taxed out of that bracket. 2 would be the least. And I thought the same thing, but like Deb started sending me. I promise you, I thought that was it too. I don't know if something changed, but because I always heard that like I always was supposed to withhold 1 from my camera. I need to get a new camera. It's gonna go in and out. The more you withhold, the more the government would take from your paycheck. They would keep. They basically get a free loan from you, and then I'd get that money back, in the first quarter of the new year. And the more I like read about it, and Deb was sending me articles, it was like, no, you need to be at 0, because that's the most that the government's going to take out of your paycheck.
Yeah.
I had it backwards.
I thought you putting down 2?
I was putting 1.
Oh, well, 1's usually like when you break even.
That's what I thought too, but I don't know. There's something weird, and I haven't changed my like W4 since, or my W2, W4 since.
So what'd you put on your? Did you change it?
I just changed it. Yeah, I just changed it to 0 for both, for state and federal.
That's what I have.
Federal was 0, and federal we owed like $150, something like that. It wasn't much, but Kansas we owed like 600.
Yeah.
So Kansas also has a really high tax rate, so I changed that to 0. Hopefully, it will be better.
I was going to say, since we're talking about W4s, there's a W4 guide from Vanderbilt University. It says by placing a 0 on line 5, you are indicating that you want the most amount of tax taken out.
That's what I thought.
Each pay period.
That's what I thought.
If you wish to claim 1 for yourself instead, then less tax is taken out of your pay each period. So the higher the number, the less the tax they take out, which will accumulate to you.
The less of tax. Right. Okay, so that makes sense. And I think I read that wrong for the longest time. But
I have, yeah, and that's really shitty too. Like, because you're at the end of the year and you're like, yeah. Well, I looked at my paychecks and they were taking a ton of money out.
Right.
And now here I am, and I owe them more money.
Right. It is really saddening when you see like your gross income, and then you see how much the government takes out, and you're like, man, I'm supposed to be making, and it's not my salary, but let's just say I'm making $100,000 a year, and the government's taking like $30,000 of that, if not more. I don't really know what the number is, and you're only grossing like a third of what you're actually or 2/3 of what you're actually supposed to be making. It's catastrophic. And I kind of wish that instead of we had like just a straight income tax or state taxes on like all this, that like just everything that you buy is taxed higher, right? Like just goods and services. I really feel like I shouldn't have to be taxed on my income because I'm going and putting in 40 plus hours of work a week. And
I agree.
And this is a crazy thing. Is like we said, screw you, Britain, and we're not going to do this because you're tax us. And here's the early thing that we got pissed about is that the British government taxed us on a head tax. So like it should have been like an income tax, basically, real estate taxes, so owning property, which I think is fair. And the T tax. Those were like the only three. And the people the colonizers that were already here were like, fuck you, we're not doing that. And said, no, let's go to war over it. And so that's how our country was like, no, you're not going to do that. We're going to be our own country now. Bye. See ya.
Bye.
So that was kind of like the start of it, right? And so there was a couple of taxes that like the government wanted to impose, and some of the early ones that were imposed on us were, they say, excise taxes, which is just like specific goods and services such as alcohol. I think tobacco was one, and funny thing, tea was, but I think it was probably taxed at a more minimal amount. It's probably not as popular as tea was probably more popular in the States back in the day before we like dumped
tea.
It all.
Get your fucking tea out of here.
We drank coffee and methamphetamine.
Take your tea tax and shove it.
Right. And we said, what we should do to Coca-Cola is put actual Coke in this. That'll get people like our stuff. Anywho.
Yes.
So the first estate tax was enacted in 1797 in order to fund the U.S. Navy. It was repealed and then reinstated over the years as a need to finance the wars. The modern estate tax, as we know, was implemented in 1916, so 107 years ago.
Good math.
Got our first
quick math.
Thanks. Yeah, I deal with numbers all day. I hope I can do simple math. So here's a like kind of an overview of some of the taxes that were delivered over the years. A gift tax, so like buying someone a gift. Self-explanatory, was one of the first taxes we had in 1924. Sales taxes was imposed by the states, but not by the federal government, which I think is still true to this day. If I go buy something in the state of Kansas, I think it's like 9%. If I go buy something in Missouri, it's around like 6.5%, 7%, I believe. Federal doesn't tax me for goods and services, as far as I know. So I think that's still true. The first sales tax was enacted in West Virginia in 1921, and then followed suit by 18 more states by like the next like 15 years. So they're like, okay, this is good, which is kind of funny because this is like right around the time of the Great Depression. It's like, we're low on money, we can print more, and we can tax people. Let's do that. And then we fall into a great recession because no one had any money. And we can
give people credit for when they buy stuff.
Right.
And just owe us later.
Right. And so it was kind of just like, okay, we're going to give people money that they can just credit, and then but they got to owe us because that should be taxed as anything that you buy. And I'm like, well, you're just creating a zero funditure and not investment, but like you're not creating money. You're not creating anything of value at that point, right?
You're losing money. You could argue you're losing money, not even breaking even.
It's just you're just showing what inflation is. You're just creating a zero net worth, and in fact, making the U.S. dollar even more moneyless than what it is worth. And then FDR signed the Social Security Act in 1935, which I think was a great thing, right? You retired at age, and I don't know what it was back in 1935. I'm sure it was a lot younger because of the death rates. So by the age of, let's say back in the day, 50 years old, you can retire, and hopefully that Social Security and all the prior generations is going to pay how you're going to live out your dying days. And you shouldn't have to have a retirement. Government's got you. You put in your 30, 40 years, kind of like what pensions were back in the day. And now that we know, in this day and age, we don't even have enough money to pay anyone past the age of, I think 67 is now the retirement age. When you can start getting Social Security.
Right. Sounds right. Yeah, crazy. That provides Medicare, Medicaid as well.
True. Are only forms of socialized healthcare.
Which sucks too.
So when that was enacted in 1935, they first started collecting in 1937, and they didn't pay that out until 1940. So yeah, that was Social Security. Okay, so tax rates then and now. So tax rates tend to change, obviously. In 1913, for example, the marginal tax rate was about 1% of the income. And these are just not. Anyways, I should have read through this a little bit more, but the tax rates were just really low at the start. They were around 8%, kind of like I think our federal tax rates are at what, 6%, 7%, 8%. I think it's around there still. No. I got that wrong. Like collectively, by World War I, it was almost 80%.
What?
So, yeah. Here, let me show you this real quick. This is this graph that I'm looking at, which is crazy. And World War II was even higher. Okay, so here we are at the start, 1913. We're at 7%. Here, let me zoom in a little bit. World War I, we're at 77%. And then Great Depression happens. Let's still charge 24%. Crazy.
Fucking almost 80%. Was that that's just to fund the war? Is that why?
I think so.
And then World War II, same thing. Over almost 100% of your money was going to the war.
94%. And I don't know if there was tax brackets or like everyone was just, you're getting $100 a day, but you're only receiving $6 of that, which would be crazy. So really high back in the day, which is, I can't even believe that it was that high.
When does it cut off? Like what year does this graph cut off?
2022. So pretty current.
Oh,
which we're at 30.
And then is that the average?
I think that's average.
Because now we have someone that makes $24,000 a year.
Yeah, marginal
85. Yeah,
marginal tax rate. Yeah.
Yeah.
This meant all taxpayers. So single, married, heads of households, that change over times. So right now, the highest marginal tax rate is currently at 37%. So the probably people that are making over, I think, what, 400K is what at least Biden proposed for us.
Say that again.
I think if you make anything, I don't know if this is law yet, but basically anything over $400,000, you are in the top bracket of taxes. At 34%, which, let me do some quick math real quick. If you're getting paid $400,000, so bare minimum, you can tax $150K basically. That's a lot of money. So you're only bringing home $250. And I'm not saying $250K is not a livable wage. It's very. You're doing fine. You're doing
your top 1%.
Yeah, you don't need a dual income. You can live fairly nice and probably a $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 house with a couple kids, couple cars. Wife doesn't have to work, and you're fine. I would think. Yeah, money might be tight for someone like that, but it's also a $600,000 house. Probably have a couple nice cars, a couple kiddos. even if you don't have kids, like power to you. And that's kind of like where we started. So like, it wasn't as bad as it was back in obviously 1918 or 1944. We're at World War II and getting taxed at 94%. That's insane. And it carried that way until 1963, which until 1964, it dropped to 70%. And then in 1981, the Economic Recovery Tax Act dropped it down to 50%. And then we had another tax reform in 86 down to 28%, which was the lowest in our history since basically like inception of taxes. So it's really funny how America's like, screw you, Britain, we're done with these taxes. And then like 100 years later, and I'm pretty sure the first like income tax, and I think I just read this, was from the Civil War. So thanks, America.
Way to do it to yourself.
Right. So that was like the inception of it. And that was kind of to fund the Union to go to battle with those Southerner loving
them Southern types.
Yeah, they really love their minorities enough to fight to not have their freedom. So now taxes. I mean, it seems like every 20 years now, like there's some sort of tax reform. Our day and age, our inflation is so high right now, and I'm talking 2023, where we've been considered. By this presidency, we're not considered in a recession because they redefined the terms and
convenient.
When in the old definition, if you go into a recession, because you have two negative GDP incomes per quarter, 2 quarters in a row, considered in a recession. So what the
I wish it was a recession. Be more
reception, fun. Yeah. So the reserve, what they do to try to alleviate the amount of goods and services being devalued is by increasing the interest.
Mm-hmm.
And so it creates more
which
value.
Which we're living in.
And that's why houses, if you go buy right now, are 7, 8, 9% that you're going to be paying on a loan. So
and they're selling for way higher than they.
If you're, let's just say, you're going to buy a $100,000 house, which 3 years ago only costed $50,000, which is significant, and probably like what we've seen in a lot of housing. You're going to be paying not only twice as much for that house; it only costs $50,000, but also probably 3 times as much a month just to own that house, which is crazy for a house that doesn't even cost that much. And the amount of interest,
almost 7. Is it like 6?
I'm pretty sure it's 7 current interest rate. Yeah, Bank of America, get out of here. 7.5%.
Oh my god.
And right now the adjustable rate 7.7. So adjustable, you never want to be in that, because basically anytime it goes up, so like 5 years ago, it might have been 3.5%, but now when the interest goes up to 7, your house payment goes from maybe $800. Now you're paying $1,500 a month, which is crazy. Just because like it's adjustable, you don't ever want to get into that. So people like myself that got into a fixed rate at 3.5%, which we refinanced, I think, in 2020, right before the pandemic.
Popping champagne, your fist pumping.
I'm popping champagne. I'm locked in at 3.5%, baby. And I'm like, yeah, our housing has, increased in value by like fucking fivefold. Like my parents didn't see the growth that they saw in the time that I lived there my entire life. And we saw it in 5 years of owning this house. It's insane. This house is not worth what Overland Park is saying it's worth. Not even close. I'll be the first one to tell you.
Yeah, you will.
I will. So
how's that vodka Sprite?
Refreshing. Doing a lot of talking.
Yeah.
So
lubricate your cords.
Thank you.
Sorry.
I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So now that we got that down, know how money works, right?
No, we'll never know.
I summed it all up. No, we won't. So that brings us into our discussion. Our main discussion is how in the hell are we not like as developed in other countries where the government already knows what you have to pay every single year, which I don't know why we have to do this every single year. There shouldn't be a tax day where I'm like, hey, government, here's how much money I'm supposed to owe you. Why isn't that just like taken out of my paycheck every single year so I don't have a day where I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see if I get a couple $100 back, or I have to owe the government another $600. Aren't they taking enough of my money and just sending it wherever?
I think it's a form of auditing because they're trying to say, okay, you said like you claimed this amount of tax. Let's see if you actually owe us more or if we owe you more. I think that's like the idea behind it. But like to what we were talking about earlier, I like the income tax to me is just like I feel like that's criminal. Like why am I earning money and then giving that to the government when I'm already paying taxes on my car, paying taxes on my home, I'm paying taxes on goods and services. Like, why am I giving you another chunk of my money?
Right.
When I'm already giving you money in anything that I pay for.
Shouldn't it just be like a flat thing on anything that I buy or a service that's delivered to me?
Yeah.
I think that's how it should be.
And then even like when you talk about like Venmo or Cash App, right? If someone gives you money more than what $600, like you have to report that. And it's like, what?
I'm not going to.
I'm gifted this person. That. Okay, graduation, whatever,
sure,
special occasion, birthday, whatever. I'm gifting this person this amount of money so that they can go and put it to good use or whatever. It's their money now. Why am I reporting that to you?
And then you have like the greatest trader of all time. And when I say trader, like stock trader, Nancy Pelosi's husband is the GOAT. Every year like his margins are off the wall. Like, and that guy gets away with basically stealing millions of dollars a year. And I have to go and report if someone gives me $600 because I won fantasy football this year.
Yeah.
Which I did.
Oh, you did?
But yeah, congrats. But I'm not going to report that on my taxes because I earned $599.99.
Weak.
So
our league isn't worth that much.
No, it is.
Maybe it is.
Tell your wieners to shut up, by the way.
They're excited.
They're excited. There's one happy wieners. And I agree at that point. It's so back-asswards that it just doesn't make any sense, brother.
No, it doesn't. Like, that's why I'm really intrigued by this flat tax.
That's being proposed.
That's been proposed. It's probably not going to get passed, but
it's a great thing.
It is, dude. Like eliminating the IRS would be fantastic for everyone, but
I think the IRS needs to remain. I think it's the separate entities that are pushing them to drive them to be hasty or like, I don't know the right word, but just like it's not fair to the people. It's never fair because there's so much that goes into the government that it's like, how can you control anything? But let's just try to control one thing at a time. It's our money and everything that people work for, our hard-earned blood, sweat, and tears go into a 40-hour work week, or probably, some people that's part-time. But what really pisses me off is Intuit and TurboTax and H&R Block. How are these still institutions that are standing buildings? I'm okay if they're third party and they're with the government, which they are to a degree. They're more of like a second party, but they shouldn't be influencing how we do our taxes every year. So I have a good video of kind of the inception of where Intuit started from and how they're still bending every single American over right now.
Roll it.
Let's
make sure it has audio.
Do it. Yeah. No, it's gonna.
TurboTax, America's #1 free tax filing software, scammed its customers out of billions of dollars. From a company claiming to offer a free product, that is quite impressive. After years of scamming customers into unneeded fees and add-ons, they've finally been caught and forced to offer refunds to the millions of Americans who they scammed. Now, to fully understand how TurboTax got away with this scam for so long, we have to go all the way back to the year 1999. That's the year that TurboTax first offered its online tax filing service. This program allowed individuals to skip going to an accountant and send their tax filing directly to the IRS and get an acknowledgement of its acceptance in just 24 hours. Before that, the process had to be done with snail mail, and you could end up waiting weeks to find out if your return was accepted or if you need to refile. TurboTax online service was a massive improvement, and a whopping 4.2 million copies of the 1999 version of TurboTax was sold that year, making the parent company Intuit a boatload of money. Now, this cash cow of a product was nearly destroyed a few years later when everyone's favorite government agency, the IRS, announced plans to create a free online tax filing tool directly on their website for all Americans to use. Intuit, as well as H&R Block and other tax services, lobbied against this plan as they knew it would decrease their profits.
Sam was taking a quick smoke break.
After spending hundreds of millions in bribes, donations, to various lobbyist groups and senators, the IRS and these tax companies came to a compromise. TurboTax and other tax services would be required to offer a free filing service for Americans who made less than $66,000 a year, and in exchange for these companies offering those services, the IRS agreed to not create their own free tax filing software. While TurboTax and other companies had to offer this free service, they had no intention of making it easy for the majority of Americans to use the free version, and instead made it the top priority to funnel all of its users directly to their paid service, despite year after year spending millions on TV ads promoting that their service was free.
Free! Free, free! Free!
That's right. TurboTax Free is free. Free, 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 free.
TurboTax has a few different services they offer, but the main one they push is known as TurboTax Free. This service claims that simple tax returns are free. However, the deceptive wording means that the majority of people who use the service end up paying some amount of fees, ranging from around $50 all the way up to $300 per filing. The fine print states that a simple tax return would include a W-2 only. A W-2 is the basic form you receive from an employer if you had a traditional job. However, if you have any additional tax documents, TurboTax then classifies your return as no longer being simple, and then they start reaming you with fees. Most Americans have some form of alternative income that makes their return no longer simple in TurboTax's terms of service. Anything from student loan payments, the sale of stocks, child support payments, or gig economy work would disqualify you from their free service, and you'd be forced to pay to file. As someone who
Sorry.
I was like, why am I in the center of attention right now?
I thought I was going to change the view to put you on top of me.
Oh. You would like that view. Anyways.
And back to it.
I've used TurboTax my entire adult life. I have had to pay to file with them since 2015, as I have had many different income sources, including payments from Google, the parent company of YouTube, which sends me a 1099 form every year. TurboTax allows me and others to sign up for their free plan, and then hours into filing or tax return, right before the end, they let you know that you have to pay a fee to file since your return is not considered simple. What makes the company even more nefarious is that TurboTax actually did allow most Americans to file for free, even if your taxes were complicated, under their program known as TurboTax Free File. What truly was deceptive was that the Free File program was hidden from the public to make it nearly impossible to find. If you tried Googling the page, it wouldn't come up, as TurboTax had included a robot.txt file on the page, which prevented Google from indexing the page and showing up when searched for. Now, all of this was eventually discovered in 2019 by the organization known as ProPublica, which released a scathing report on the dark dealings of TurboTax and their continued effort to make sure the US tax code remains as complicated as possible, so most Americans need to pay for their services when the tax system in most other countries is much simpler. Next time you get a headache filing your taxes, remember to thank TurboTax and other tax services who make sure it stays complicated. In response to ProPublica's report, the CEO of Intuit released a statement making it clear they weren't scamming anyone, just trying to help Americans find the right product for their complicated tax filing needs. He went on to say there was nothing shady about hiding their actual free program webpage, as this was a common practice many websites used, and he stated TurboTax's services are far better than a new potential free filing form that the IRS was planning on releasing. This did not go over well, and thousands of unhappy customers began demanding refunds from TurboTax and issuing chargebacks on credit cards as well. Initially, TurboTax refunded most of the claims, but as more came in, TurboTax changed their tune and eventually stopped issuing refunds. Needless to say, this upset a lot of people, which eventually led to the FTC suing Intuit and forcing the company to pay back $141 million to customers they scammed in 2022. While this is obviously a step in the right direction, it's a small amount they have to give back considering the billions the company has made from this scam over the years. After the report broke exposing this company, TurboTax tried to strong-arm the government into renewing their deal that would prohibit the IRS from creating their own free filing service, but due to public outrage, the bill allowing this did not pass the Senate in 2019. As of 2023, TurboTax has withdrawn its services from the IRS free filing program and no longer offers most of their free programs. They still advertise their main product as free, but like before, most people end up having to pay some fees to use it once they actually sign up. By leaving the free file program, TurboTax can now offer this deceptive service without threat of future lawsuits, as they are no longer in the program requiring them to offer free services. It's unfortunate TurboTax and other tax companies have been able to scam Americans for so long with their deceptive products. Hopefully, going forward, tax laws will be changed to allow for far easier online filings. In most cases, the IRS already has all of your information before you file, knowing exactly what you owe them, and it's just a logistical nightmare you have to go through to provide your return to them. But when these companies continue to donate to the government to make sure that doesn't change, I don't see this changing anytime soon.
Crazy, right?
So what's the point? It's like, what's the point anymore?
So they can
like
make
why
money.
The government?
No, so TurboTax can make money.
No, I mean, like, I'm obviously that, but like, I've always noticed that. I've always known going into like H&R Block, TurboTax, I was like, I know this isn't going to be free. Because
what blows my mind, sorry, I don't want to cut you off.
You're good.
How are the H&R Blocks that have like a, brick and mortar location open from May to basically December every year? They make that much money that they can pay rent for 9 months out of the year.
Well, when they make billions in tax season.
Right.
Yeah.
But you were saying, what's the point? What's the point?
Yeah. What's the point anymore of, the government having everyone file if they already know what we owe?
The only strongest argument that I've heard, and this comes from one of my buddy's friends. I know buddy's friends, roommates now. I'm good friends with this guy. He works for like an investment group, and he's like, the only thing that's like he can say is that they don't know your deductions. So like if you have a kid, which the government should probably know if I have a kid, considering they give him a social security, or him and her a social security number. They would know that. But like donations, they would know like if you're paying student loans, like that sort of thing. If you're paying interest on your student loans, so that's where TurboTax is a scam, right? Because like I would say, I'm making up a number, but I'm going to say like 80% of Americans aren't just getting a W-2. They probably have investments in a car, a house. Those are just a couple of things. A lot of Americans have kids. In fact, probably 50% of them that are over the age of at least 30, I would say. And so like any of those, like anything that's not just related to your job, TurboTax is just going to consider that as a complex document, which it's really not. And if you've ever actually filed your documents by hand or filed taxes by hand, which I only did 1 year, and I wasn't confident enough that it was right, I sent it into H&R Block, and they're like, oh, you did a really good job. You were just missing like a couple things. And it was like revolving cryptocurrency, which that's a that's brand new to taxes in itself. I think we just have to be informed and like try to do it ourselves. Like there's plenty of YouTube videos on how to change every single car part out there. There should be the same to be able to file your taxes. I think it's just the convenience of Intuit just saying, and I don't know, do you go through TurboTax? Is that how you filed in the past?
I've done both.
I've done both with H&R, and TurboTax has always been cheaper for me, so that's the way that I tend to go. Next year, I'm really inclined to do them by hand and actually just file them that way to see how accurate I am, because your W-2 should show you everything that you really need to know. Exceptions.
Well, I'm lucky that I have a CPA in the family now.
And that's the other thing is like, do you want to pay someone? Same thing as like H&R. And did he find anything different than H&R?
He didn't talk about H&R Block.
Or TurboTax and like what you did with Turbo? Because you can see what you're going to get within TurboTax before you file.
Right.
Did he find anything different than what they had said?
No.
Because it's, let's be honest, like I'm going to trust a computer's accuracy way more than I'm going to trust another human for, just those inaccuracies as being a human, right?
Yeah. But I would go back. My only argument to the deductions thing is, to your point, like the government knows if you have a kid because they get a social security number.
Doesn't know how much you donated per charity.
That would be honestly the only one. The government knows if you have a student loan.
Which, yeah.
They know it because you pay like a federal charity, student loan. It's federal.
I'm pretty sure there's a certain like dollar amount that you can donate, and it's like 60% of the certain amount that can carry for 1 year. The other 40% that doesn't can be applied for the next year. So that's where you see like you saw Donald Trump's tax returns where he made like $7 million 1 year and only paid $750 in taxes because he owns a bunch of real estate, right? So those are write-offs for the government. So if you own real estate, you're already like ahead. If you file your taxes in a trust versus like a person, like say I like everything is claimed through a trust for myself. Trust can't be taxed the same way that a income can for a person. So if I say that, Sam Williams LLC earned all the money for my income last year, and I write, hey, by myself, I didn't make anything. I don't have to pay any taxes.
Mm-hmm.
That trust. So there's ways to get around it. There's just no knowledge that are being taught, and pre-K to obviously pre-K, but K1 to K12 that you're learning about how to manipulate on how to skimp out on paying all these taxes. Where these like millionaires of people and these moguls that are worth millions of dollars know how to get loopholes around this, and the common person, which is 98% of people, don't really know how to do that.
That's fair. But I would say theoretically then, based on what you're saying, if the only deductions that the government doesn't know about are my donations.
There's a multitude of things, but yeah, that's one example.
So donations and then like crypto and investments.
Right.
Those are the only deductions that the government doesn't really have an idea about.
Yeah. What's funny is they know how much money you made on those investments if you invest in the stock market or crypto, though, once you report those.
So then what you're saying is it's
only if you sell them.
Only if you sell them. Okay. So then I mean, it's really two forms that you need to fill out for your taxes.
How much money did you make?
How much did you make? How much did you donate? And outside of deductions that the government actually knows about.
It really should be that simple, Nate. I don't know what it's like in the EU, but I know it's probably that simple where it like takes you less than probably 30 minutes. But I'm sitting here for 2-3 hours doing my, taxes and going through all the different forms. And like, damn, Deb, how much interest did we have to pay on our mortgage last year?
I like how you looked over there like you were actually talking to her.
Right. Yeah. Naturally. here's where Intuit could be the hero at the end of the day. They could not make extra money than what the government could pay them to run their tax services. Because let's be honest, anything run through the government is extremely slow. It's very paper heavy still to this day, which is so far behind. I know because my wife works for the government and like shit takes forever. You work for partially the government, right?
Well, county.
Partially. They could be the hero and just say, hey, this is really complex. You guys have obviously a great program. Intuit also makes QuickBooks, which I think the CEO made like $27 million last year. 12 million was that when she was just CEO for TurboTax. And say, hey, we're just going to third party this. You're going to make the money that we'll give you for your program. And the government just does this. And we're just going to say, for every American, we're just going to take another 0.25% of their income. And that should pay you for taxes of the year. And we don't have to worry about it every year. Just a suggestion. That will never happen ever.
Yeah, and this is why I don't understand people that are pro-government. Like just the way that our taxes are is just like how are you okay? And you see how they handle money. And it's like, how are you okay giving them more of your money?
Yeah. It's really frustrating, man.
It's really frustrating. And I do not understand the people that are pro-government because of this. I understand that government's like a necessary evil, but that doesn't mean you have to be pro them. That's why I like less government involved in my life, taking my money when I'm already giving them all, not all my money, but I'm giving them a lot of my money.
Yeah. You are giving them a ton.
Why do I want them in my life even more?
You don't want any of them to
in your life.
Yeah, I mean they're so financially irresponsible with how they spend millions and billions and I mean, gosh, what's our current clock? Like $31 trillion in debt?
Is it 31? That seems
current debt current US debt, which we are at. Oh, here we go. U.S. national debt clock, it's so funny to watch this because it just like the amount of dollars that I see it rising in like 5 seconds, not even 5 seconds, and like 1 second is more than I make in like a half a second. This is crazy, dude. Look at this shit. So yeah, I was right. 31 trillion. Almost 32.
So you're going to have the audacity.
Mm-hmm. They will.
To charge me interest if I'm late on a payment or charge me with a penalty. And you're 31, almost 32 trillion in the hole.
Yeah. Well,
audacity.
I think what's crazy is like the average U.S. debt per citizen. So, about 94K, which I would think is about right for a lot of people.
It's 94K. You said
it's probably more than that, to be honest, because most people won't own a house, right? I know in my house I owe at least 200,000 still, if not more or less. And then debt per taxpayer, so 247. So that's probably about accurate, considering I have student loans left and 2 car payments and other things.
Where do you see that?
So this debt per taxpayer.
Oh, okay. Holy shit.
Says the debt per taxpayer equals the U.S. national debt divided by the number of U.S. taxpayers. So
okay,
although there's 330 million, give or take, there's probably about half, maybe less than half of that actually can pay taxes. Like, because I'm excluding children, non-working spouses,
right?
So like what we're spending is $6 trillion versus what we're earning 1.5. They always said in economics like deficit spending was a good thing. I just don't understand how that. Oh, here's U.S. population 334. I was pretty close. And then we look at our biggest Medicare, and healthcare is so high, and Social Security is next, and then defense and war, which the budget for. I'm okay. I'm slightly okay with having a big deficit for defense/war because I know that our country's safe. However, I think the U.S. dollar is based on that dollar amount right there. Our Social Security that we owe $1.3 trillion. How are we paying for anyone to have a dollar right now over the age of 67?
I don't know. But this is overwhelming to look at.
And almost $1.6 trillion in just healthcare alone. And how much are those insurance companies making in profit every single year? Like Cigna, Blue Cross, Aetna. I know I'm forgetting a couple, but those are the big players.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Your monthly premium versus how much they'll pay out.
Insane.
Absolutely.
That is like, how are we not focusing on healthcare to a degree? Just like looking at the monetary value, how are we not? And it's like Social Security. Okay, it's not raising as fast as all these other parameters, but are we not like taxing us enough? And I think the big question is there's a huge boomer population that's about to enter this, and it's going to be catastrophic. My dad just entered retirement, I think 5 years ago. Your dad's been in that for a minute too, I believe. There's a lot of people that are our parents' age that are still working, and if they're all going to start retire in the next 2-3 years, we're going to see this go from 1.2, and I know it's going to double in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Because look at the U.S. U.S. federal debt to GPD ratio, 1960 when the taxes were really high, 52. We kind of caught a break in 1980 when we lowered taxes a lot, but now it's catching up with us, and now we're at 120. We have almost quadrupled in 60 years.
That's insane.
This is
overwhelming.
And here's our income tax. So we're $2.6 trillion. This is revenue. I don't give a shit about revenue. I want to know what gross profit is. And that's what's frustrating, is that we as a country are earning $4.6 trillion, which is the richest country in the world. Yet we're spending almost 7 times more than that. Almost eight times more than that.
No, that's just from taxes.
Right. Which is, how does the government make money?
That's true. Taxes. Because that's, I'm also looking at the GDP.
Look at this total debt to GDP ratio, 133%. And the negative, that's a negative number, not a positive. We want that to be opposite. If a company's making 133% based on the services they provide, based on what we're exporting out as a company, fantastic. Fortune 500, number 1 on the Fortune 500 list, baby. and this is what's like skewed is our GDP, because it's like what we sell. It's so this is where people get confused. So we're earning $26 trillion. This is not per year, obviously, because that'd be a shit ton of money. And then we get another 4, so about 30, but our national debt, but no. That's not what it is. This is what we're spending every single year. I don't know if anyone's ever run a company before, but if you're spending that much for as long as the United States has been around, it ain't good.
You're doing business wrong.
You're doing business wrong. And amazing new mobile app. Yeah. I mean, it's just, if I don't know about you, but if I'm doing stocks and I see a bunch of a lot more reds than I see in greens, something ain't right.
Something ain't right. Yeah, this is very red. This is a very red page.
It's frightening. So we're screwed, Ryan. Oh, awesome. And last thing I want to show you is Intuit on how the lobby or who's getting the money, because I think that's important.
I'm sure this won't make me mad at all.
Oh no. So in 2022, they spent a total of $3.5 million, which is probably like nothing to what they're making, because they're making billions of dollars per year. Here's a breakdown. There's a lot more recipients, but I just want to show you. It doesn't matter side of the aisle. They don't give a shit. They're doing everything they can to keep in power. Holy shit. I'm surprised it's mostly Democrats.
Are you, though?
I mean, keep the people poor. And one of my good friends that I grew up with.
More money to the government makes me think Democrat.
We're not good friends anymore. But he always said, because his dad was a politician for Sam Graves, I believe, Missouri, is that Democrats keep people poor and Republicans keep people stupid. And I'm 100% a believer in that to this day and age. So next time you vote, keep that in mind. You want to be stupid or poor? Both.
Neither. Yeah, both.
So that's taxes, man. We could probably go a lot more in depth, but we're just, again, I don't know what the common occurrence that I'm hearing from our podcast, other podcasts, is just, what the fuck is going on in America? Like, you see, maybe this is for another time, but you see protests that are happening in France right now. People really standing up, people storming BlackRock, which owns pretty much the entire world at this point, BlackRock and Vanguard.
Mm-hmm.
And they're actually doing something about it. And America's like, yeah, let's talk about it, but we don't do anything. Hey guys, anyone want to go storm BlackRock tomorrow and buy me a plane ticket? I'm there with you.
Our problem is we want to point and shout at each other and dunk on each other. That's what we want to do. It's not about solutions. It's about being right.
I know.
Virtuous.
I really feel like writing my senators and shit for the first time in my life. Like, I really want to do that.
What would you say to him?
Quit being a piece of shit. First off, although, like, it starts from the ground, right? Supporting local to state. I really like my state governor, Laura Kelly. I think she's kind of in the middle, kind of believes for things on both sides, and she's been a great governor in the state of Kansas. I don't have any problems with her. I do have a problem with the. I don't want to get into this right now, but I think it starts there, and if they keep doing this, like, we gotta do something more drastic. Like, as far as like the whole January 6th thing, man, I don't almost blame people for standing up for what they truly believe in, because at least those people that stormed the Capitol, and we talked about this, had to believe in something and they did something about it instead of just talking about it. So I don't condone what happened to anyone that was injured or lost their lives on that day, nor do I condone what happened at the Capitol.
Condone storming the Capitol.
However, I think it just comes to a point where it's like, I'm done with this shit. I'm done living in this society that these guys can control every aspect of our lives, and we're not getting any farther in it.
That was the whole point of the American Revolution, was a group of people standing up and saying, we're done doing this shit. We're tired of living this way. We don't want to live this way. We want to live the way that we want to live, not under your thumb.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. Not blah, 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 but
just
Here we
every
are.
time I do these podcasts, I just like at the end, I don't get this sense of like relief. Like, yes, we're talking about it and I'm happy. I just don't get the sense of relief. Like, man, we're doing a difference in this world, you know? So that's what I'm going to leave this on. And I know that's like super kind of depressing, but
it's reality, dude. It's fine to be realistic about things. I mean, it's part of being, that's part of, it's part of what we're about. The truth.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable and it's disappointing and it is what it is. And that's what it is. And I think it's important that more people are, thinking about, what's real, like the truth of things than, the veil of things, if you will.
Sure. That's a great point.
But I mean, unfortunately, like we're going through one of those, eras as a country. And it's honestly, I revert back to that saying where it's, we're in that cycle of where they talk about strong men create good times, and good times create weak men create bad times, but bad times create strong men. We're kind of in that cycle, and we're kind of in that area where we're kind of in the bad times,
We are.
because I think, and I, whatever your belief, everyone's individual beliefs are, but I think once we've started moving into this kind of woke, these woke politics and, we're more concerned about offending people than actually doing things to help people financially, and creating laws that actually do address equity instead of it being like, and I'm not going to get into it because again, I'm not trying to stir shit up, but I mean, all the shit going on with, transgender rights and stuff like that. And it's like, dude, I don't honestly think people give a shit about if you're transgender or not. I think we're more 1%. Concerned about, I think we have bigger fish to fry at this point. We're on the verge of World War III. Our economy is.
But you bring up such a good point, is that people were so against like supporting one company, right? That supported one individual that they wanted to put on their cans and represent them. And we brought their like stock price down 5% one week. That's catastrophic for a not catastrophic. Budweiser would be fine.
Right.
What if we did that with the federal government of some sort of faction in one area or another?
Right.
And saying what we could do instead, we're just like, oh, the 1% of people that are actually being like affected over this, like we're really that offended. Brother, I don't give a shit if I go and drink a Bud Light tomorrow. I don't
even drink Bud Light, so like
I don't either. I don't like rice.
And look, I believe in the saying "go woke, go broke." So Bud Light did it to themselves. Like you just completely alienated the largest portion of your consumer base.
Look at your target audience, really.
Yeah.
I'm just going to point that out.
Who cares? Like
if I'm selling a product that's like who's the company that makes the comfortable shit for men's like undergarments? They have some funny commercials where it's, I don't know. Anyways, they have a target audience and they nail it and they're good at it.
So why not double down on that?
Yeah. They're not going to go and be like, well, I see you recently got a penis or something. Like they're not going to be like, let's target that audience that's 1% of the population.
No penis, no problem.
Right.
Here's a Bud Light. No. Like, honestly, dude, like, we're in a capitalist society. Like, I'm sure a beer company will come along that wants that target audience.
Sure.
Cool.
They can make
Do it.
Go for it.
Do it.
Yeah.
Who the fuck cares? Like, my God.
Yeah.
And it's like,
so I think we're getting off topic.
Well, no, we're on topic because we're talking about the government. We're talking about taxes.
Oh, sure.
And I mean, honestly, like reverting back to what you just said about instead of focusing on that, focusing on the government doesn't give a shit about you. The government gives a shit about having power and taking from you So why don't we focus on saying fuck you to the government, since they've been saying fuck you to all of us?
What if we just all stop paying taxes?
What would they do? You're gonna come arrest 330. Well, you're
gonna arrest 157 million individuals.
People? Yeah.
You guys got maybe 80,000 in your workforce,
and you're going to. So if you're gonna arrest over half the population, who's gonna pay your taxes then?
Oh,
if they're all in jail. Now what are you gonna do?
Wow, you're gonna charge more for the 20% of individuals that didn't file? Oh, guess what? All your highest paid earners don't pay taxes already. The government would be shit without the middle class, and people don't understand that.
And they keep shitting on the middle class.
They keep shitting on us. And so next year, I'm not filing my taxes. We're not paying.
So if you're pro-government, you're fucking stupid. You really are.
You really are.
You're fucking brainwashed. And I say that to people on both sides of the aisles because I know there's pro-government people on both sides. You're fucking brainwashed.
Yep.
You really are.
Getting played.
They don't care about you. They really don't. And you know how I know they don't care about you? And this is isolated, but after that, the shooting in Nashville, when fucking Karine Jean-Pierre said that transgenders are under attack. No, motherfucker. Children were under attack.
Yeah.
Not the transgender community.
Yeah.
Okay? That's how I know the government doesn't give a shit about you.
Just another woke policy to get them to compare about someone that matters as a 1%. I'm not saying you don't matter as a 1% person that chooses that lifestyle or doesn't choose that, depending on how you believe or not, whatever. That's fine. But I'm with you. It doesn't make any fucking sense.
Dude, you're gay, bisexual, whatever fucking letter you are of the thing, I don't care. Live your life. Do your thing. Don't infringe on my rights. I won't infringe on yours.
Yep.
Okay? But
Easy
holy
set.
shit, fuck the government.
On that note, we're done.
Boom.
Fuck the government.
Fuck the government. But we have been doing some fun stuff recently.
No.
I was just taking a left turn there.
No, we're ending it right there.
Well, I'm just saying, dude.
I don't want to end it on a good note. I want to end it angry.
Holy shit, dude.
Just let me end it there, all right?
No, I was just going to say, dude, we've been streaming lately.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
We've been having
You've been
fun.
streaming. You've been streaming.
Yeah, but it's been with you.
I know. I'll get my stream back up.
Yeah.
Running. So if anyone's on Twitch, please follow the Rowdy Rooster. Rooster spelled with 2 zeros instead of
R00 STER, not 00 or not 00. It's 00 the number.
And if I ever decide to stream again, I'll
sponge with a gun.
I'll put my deets down below.
And I've got that channel up on YouTube and
yep.
Watch the streams. They're fun.
Yeah.
Fun times. Get your mind off.
It is fun.
Bullshit.
I was cracking up this today when
the fucking alligator.
No. The alligator is funny, but when the like boss man was that the boss man?
Oh, when I was playing Resident Evil.
Oh my gosh, and he was now I remember last night, but no, it was let's end the stream. Fuck the government. We're done. Okay, we're done. Okay. We're done. We're done with this episode. Bye.
All right, I'm playing the outro.
See
you in the next one.
Yeah. Fuck the government.
Fuck the government.
Congratulations. You've made it to the end. You might as well tune in for the next episode of Indecent Exposure. That's all, folks. Until next time, Space Cowboy.